GCX first started in the 70s, they had a television mount system that was really basic, and then when I started in the 80s, we really only had like three versions of arms for physiological monitors.
The company started out mounting patient televisions, which was kind of a new, novel approach to, entertaining the patient, which before that there was no such thing.
I don't know how they had their epiphany, but Gary was exposed to hospitals in his childhood. His father was a hospital administrator, for sure in Pasadena, possibly even in Spokane, Washington.
And he discovered it was difficult to get to the televisions for service and cleaning. So he wanted to devise a way to raise and lower televisions for service and cleaning.
So he developed this channel mounting system with an integrated gear, and he would mount these big TVs up high in the corner of the hospital room, and when they needed to be serviced, he could attach a motorized gearbox, pull it down, have it serviced, and put it back up. He got to know some of the doctors and nurses in the hospitals that he was servicing, and they mentioned this newfangled Hewlett-Packard device that's able to monitor the patient's vital signs while they're in the hospital. Great product, bringing tons of value and really life-saving opportunity for them, but they had nowhere to put it. It was kind of getting in their way.
About that time as well, some of the patient monitoring companies that are, offshoots of those early companies like, Sun and Hewlett-Packard, those companies started looking for partners to mount that hardware, and we were in the right place at the right time.
So they asked if he could do something similar for that. And it was in that moment that a core value of GCX that lives to this day was really born in a new way. And Gary, the G from GCX, saw this real need and saw that he was in a unique position to solve that problem that they had, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen and bring that value.
So he found himself a partner in Charlie Westbrook, who's the C of GCX, and together they designed the Power Mount, the first product of GCX.
So the founder of GCX was the next door neighbor of one of my childhood friends who is now running GCX, and he was kind of notorious in the neighborhood. He would come out, and when we were young guys playing basketball or football in the street, and he would come out and join us. So that was my introduction to the founder as well as to the company itself.
I never had the pleasure of knowing Gary. His run ended before my tenure started at GCX. But, all the GCX lore around Gary, there are definitely attributes and personality of him that's very much alive and driving our culture to this day.
Gary Gilbert comes off as eccentric at first. He could be abrasive, but it was kind of a mechanism to test people's fortitude. I think the theory was, I'm going to give you a little bit of grief, and your reaction will tell me what you're made of. And some people didn't take that well. Once you knew that, though, you were fine. But Gary was very sincere, very honest, very loyal, very smart. He was a special guy once you got past that facade, for sure.
He liked to have fun, and he liked to have fun at work. So that always kind of carried through for me. As we grew, I tried to make it a enjoyable place for me and other people that worked here. So
tall, goofy glasses, you could pick on him. He was extremely funny. Super dry, though. You had to make sure he was joking. We knew. The more you knew him, the more you knew. Right. But he was just a regular guy. President of this big company, down in the lunchroom every day, having lunch with everyone, doing 2 crossword puzzles. I mean.
Yeah, he was honest with everybody, maybe too much so, forthright, and wanted to let everybody know what he thought. I remember him telling me that you can use data to make decisions, but ultimately the most important thing is to go with your gut feeling, and I carried that forward.
So before I was at GCX, I coached high school football and I taught physics. One of our leaders on our coaching staff was one John Kruger. So I had the opportunity and pleasure of coaching with him and learning from him for a few years. And then one evening after practice, John let me know, hey, whenever you're done teaching, we need to talk because I want you to come work at my company. So I had been planning on kind of hanging up the teaching deal that year, at the end of the school year, and I said, now what again do you guys do? And 9 months later, I was at GCX.
And John, you could learn a lot from John as far as his passion, his commitment. One of his sayings is, if you're gonna do something, don't just put your toe in the water, jump all the way in. It'll end up being better. And that's probably good advice at work or outside of work as well.
He's a family guy and likes to keep the business in a sort of family orientation or family mode. And I think that's, it's been a bit, it's a big part of who we are here at GCX and why we have such loyal employees and such limited turnover. I think that's all a reflection of John and the way he goes about managing the business.
He has taught everything I know and everything how I manage people, the company, issues and everything. He's the one that taught me how to handle business. He's always been for be a leader and lead by example. Whenever something goes wrong, it's your fault. It's not your employees. When something goes right, it's your employees' success, not yours. You take the blame, you give them credit.
John's qualities of leadership are without peer. He would never ask someone to do something he hasn't done himself. Even at about the 20-25 year mark, at a warehouse we had in Albany, New York, he visited, didn't like its appearance. While everyone worked, he rented a truck, took a bunch of stuff to the garbage dumps himself, mopped the bathrooms himself. This is the president of a whatever $50 million a year company saying, you guys keep working, I don't like this, so I'm gonna change it. I'm not gonna sit here and tell everyone what to do and not touch it. That's pretty special. People kind of buy into that and it gets contagious there too. So pretty strong leadership. I would say lead by example is the ultimate version of that.
GCX now turning 50 years old. It makes all of us that have been part of it very proud to be part of the culture, part of the family, servicing the medical community at large, not only domestically but internationally. Our employees contributed to all that, and most importantly, I'm sure Gary is looking down on us, happy about the 50th anniversary, knowing that we're going to go at least another 50 years.